Welcome back to the Lacroix Cruiser. Today we're going to be working on the F150 on something that's very, very annoying, and that is a loose shifter. It goes round and round in circles. You can lift it off. Not great when you're driving. So we're going to improve it. We're going to put a new shifter on it. We're going to put one on that looks a lot better, feels better, and as a bonus is solid. Now the other thing, I like to have my shifter down a little lower. So I'm actually going to cut this. It's not a reach for me to be down here. I've got the seat further back than I normally do, but I'm going to lower it down about 1 inch as well, just for more comfort on my end, and it'll seem like a shorter throw. That is not what a short shifter is, but nonetheless, I'm going to shorten the shifter a little bit. At the same time, we'll paint this up. First thing we need to do is I'm going to be working with the door open, and if you're working with the door open, you need to remove the fuse that keeps these lights on, because it keeps this light on and the bed light on. And if I had the door open for an hour or so, not really good for the battery. So from memory, it's fuse number 8. Let's see, there we go. Fuse number 8 is out. We'll leave it there. We'll put it back in when we're done. I like to use this little included tray for my parts. So I'll put that there. Next step that we need to do, oh, by the way, this is the shifter that's going in. This is from Von Hot Rod, an artist in California. He casts these and makes them. They're great. He's got some custom pinstriping in there. And the color doesn't fit the truck now. But eventually, this truck is going to be closer to this color. So it is going to fit. Now, on the floor here, we have a bit of a mishmash of things going on. Whoever had this truck before just literally ripped this apart. So I'm going to follow that up. First thing to do, let's get a couple wires out of the way here. And we need to get this shifter boot off. Unfortunately for me, but fortunately at the same time, it's not actually secured to anything. It's just sitting there. And so is the insulation piece that's below it. So we'll have to fix that once we move along. Now, on the shifter itself is a 17mm bolt. See what I mean about the shifter popping out? Always at the wrong time. It's not going to happen again. So we have a 17mm bolt that seems a little rusted. But it's a fine thread, so we might be lucky. And we are. Now that we've got it loose, we'll use a ratcheting one and get that bolt off of there. Now this is a tapered stud, basically, and on one side we have the nut that tightens it down, and once we've got that off, the next thing we need to do is actually put the nut back on the other side of the shifter. And on the other side of the shifter, when you do that and tighten it down, it's going to pull this tapered stud out of the hole, releasing the shifter from here. Obviously, when I'm getting close, check it by hand, because I don't want it to drop down under the truck. So fine threads don't seize up as much, but they're a bit of a pain to remove afterwards. There we go. So finger tight, and then I screw it back on the other side to release that pin. If your shifter is loose in any way, and this one really isn't bad, this is the time that you'll want to get in there and get yourself a set of shifter bushings. They're very easy to install. It's 3 screws on top of this. You pull it apart, put the new bushings in, and you're good to go. And now I want to tighten this one. And as I tighten it, it's going to pull back that taper. When it pulls back that taper, the shifter will come off. point, it should be loose enough to pry out of there. And you can see the tapered bolt, how it works. So you have this little taper here. That's what holds it in. When you put it back in, make sure to have the taper on the right side, and then the shifter just pulled off. We'll take this foam piece off of here first, and it should just slide over. It's stretchy enough to do that. So that's that one that goes in there. And then the other one, we'll need some form of pry tool. Oh, no, I can get it with my fingers. So same thing, we just want to pry it off of here, like so. And then pull it over the shifter here. So I'll just get this off. Oh, there we go. Almost got it. And there we have it. Now, those of you that have a bit of a history with these trucks, you remember the old bullnose. It had a shifter that came up like this, came around and back up here. That's something I want to do in the future, but for today, I'm just going to fix this darn shift knob. But what I liked about that S-shaped one that they had was this was in the same place. But when you were in, let's say, fourth or reverse, since it came up like that and back here, if you had something here or someone's knees, you weren't playing with their knees too much. Let's go over to the vise, get this fixed. Next up, I'm going to be drilling the center of this, and I'm using the appropriate size bit for what I'm doing. The shifter has an M10 thread, so I'm drilling the appropriate size, which, find out what it is here so I can tell you. 8.75 millimeters, to be precise. And that's extremely close to what it needs to be from the factory. Got very lucky on that one. Next step, the tap. Put a bit of tap lube on, and off we go. So these threads will not be the deepest of threads. Which in reality isn't that big of a concern for me. Now, depending on the shifter knob you pick up, you may have a different size, and something like JB Weld for this is okay. It looks like there has been JB Weld on this thing in the past, trying to hold the shifter in place. But I want to do this before cutting it off. And you can see all the JB Weld residue and everything there. Now that I do see that I have threads in the middle, I'm going to cut it a little shorter because I said I wanted an inch shorter roughly. Tap back in there, go a little deeper. And let's get what's threading in here to make sure that it fits. nice and tight. Next thing I need to do is cut off the head of this, which is easy enough to do since it's being held in at the right spot. At this point, I have a couple different options. Actually, let me taper this a little bit. Once I have it threaded down to where I want, I've got a couple options here. One thing I can do is, once I'm sure of the angle, is actually pin the stud in place. The other is to use some Loctite and glue it in place. I'm going to use the Loctite route, and we'll do that. Another option would be to Loctite this in to here and then use a jam nut as my adjusting for this. And that's actually what I might do. The little jam nut is going to make it so I can move it around, adjust it, make it easier to remove in the future. Before I do that though, I'm going to clean this off and repaint it because like most of these shifters, the paint's sort of worn on some parts of it. So I may as well make it look good while I'm here. A bit of panel prep to start. Get it on there and get it off before it dries. Then some 400 grit sandpaper. Around the top of it here, I'm actually going to have to get a slightly heavier sandpaper. There's some JB Weld hanging around there for some reason. A little more panel prep. Let's go paint this up. Multiple light coats. We'll let it dry a little bit between coats. It is a matte finish paint. Once it goes matte, I know that it's dry enough to put on another coat. Let me go outside in the sun. Be right back. Here's the shifter surround that came out of my truck. As you can see, it's seen a better day. On my parts truck though, wasn't looking too bad, but the corners were a little beat up. So what I've done is put a bit of paper towel in the holes, tape around the edges, and I'm going to fill those with epoxy, let it sit overnight, let the epoxy cure, shape it, drill it, and I should be able to hold this in the way it's supposed to be held in with the 4 screws. This is what I originally started working on, but had a bit of an epiphany, and remembering my 1984 F150 that had a shifter that was sort of S-shaped, I decided to go back to that look. A couple reasons for that. One is, when it's down in this position, if I have something here, or let's go into 4th gear, which is a gear we use a lot of, my cup is sort of in the way. When going to reverse, it's even worse. So with the S shape, I'm going to clear my cup. The other thing is, I like the old school look. So we'll say goodbye to this one. Let's bring in the new one. Now, before we do that, the person who had reinstalled the shifter the last time had used these excessively large self-drilling, self-tapping screws. They're number 14 screw. So I have 2 holes that are set up for these number 14 screws, and I have 2 holes that are set up for the standard number 8 screw. I have a couple options. One would be to weld in and re-drill the holes. Not something I'm wanting to do right now. So what I am going to do is today just attach it with these 2 and then find some number 14 screws that are better quality than this and that will actually fit down into the surround, the plastic piece that holds that, so that they're recessed and the rubber does what it's supposed to do. Or I'll grind these and put a flathead on them, one or the other. But first, let's get the shifter that we're actually wanting to use in the truck. So we'll say goodbye to the straight shifter. It's going back into the parts truck just in case. So here we have the final assembly, and I've already put the surround on it, or the shroud, whatever you want to call it. Let me just peel it back. And what I did was weld the washer on the one end, and that's what keeps this in place at the same height that it was originally. And then this piece slid it on over top. So we're going to start by moving this up as far as we can move both of them, get them out of the way. And the paint is still a little damp on this, so but I've got a bit of a time crunch. Let's get it on where it needs to go. Now that that's in, we get to take our bolt and put it back in. Before I put the lock bolt back in, let me clean up the threads a little bit just to make it easier to put it in and out the next time something needs to change on the shifter. 1 second. Just using a wire brush to clean out the gunk in the threads and a little bit of brake cleaner. And yes, we'll put a bit of anti-seize on it, but the smallest amount. I have just a touch of anti-seize on this. As we all know, too much anti-seize is not a good thing. It gets everywhere. And let me get it in here without getting anti-seize on me. The bolt has a flat spot, so it only goes in one way. And then we just need to tighten it down. So finger tight, And then using a ratchet, we'll tighten it down the rest of the way. And a ratchet isn't a good job. Ratchet doesn't fit, so we'll use a ratcheting wrench instead. And you want to draw this in no one likes a loose shifter. Which two holes are expanded? Okay. Now here, this little plastic or rubber is cracked, so I'm going to put a tie wrap around here just to hold it in place and make sure that none of the gases that are underneath the truck are coming back up where they shouldn't be. Just double checking, yeah. So this is what actually seals the whole thing in. And these 4 studs or standoffs that I rebuilt are what hold this down, along with this edge. So this edge actually cuts into there, holding everything in place. Now I just have to put the 2 screws in. Let me go get the screws and the screwdriver. So we'll start with the easiest one. Find the one hole first. Once it's found, the other ones will line up. There's one. Let's put the other one in. I'm going to remove the one screw that I have already in place. Because I want to adopt a slightly different strategy here. I have 4 long Allen keys. I'm going to find the 4 holes, get them aligned, then tighten it down. Because this is not a fun exercise. I can, like I said before, can see why the other one was all broken up. It does require a bit of patience to do this. There we go. All 4 are in. Take them out one at a time and replace them with the screws. That was a much easier way of doing it. Much better. Remember, these don't need to be overly tight. We're just compressing a bit of rubber. So there we have it. The other 2 Allen keys I'll actually leave in there until I'm done the hardware store run. So next I just have to clean this up, but here we go. So now my bottle will rest easily there. And now I just have to tighten down the shift knob all the way. And let me get a wrench. Now that I have it lined up where I want, I have a wrench for the jam nut. There we go. So now we have our old style shifter in a new truck, or newer, new to me. If you like videos like this about fixing and not financing vehicles, stay tuned. We've got a lot more coming with this old truck. We're gonna get it to almost new state eventually. With that, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, or ideas, leave them below. And don't forget to subscribe. Hit that notification bell. We'll see you in the next fixing of the old OBS.